Okay. Yeah.
James?
You can always message if you need anything. So I'm James McColl. I'm an artist in the Southwest. It's Bethan Highgate-Betts, also an artist in the Southwest. I'm kind of introducing for you as well now.
That's okay, I like it, yeah.
Yeah. And we're part of the First Line Theatre, a performance art group who do like site-specific and site-responsive work a lot of the time. And we made a show, Heart and Lungs, specifically for Plymouth Fringe.
So it was, originally it was going to be an ode to failed relationships, but it sort of turned less into what was so good about it, but sort of really focused on exploring everything that you put into a relationship and the things that you're left with in the end.
Was that because you just said about it changing a little bit, was that to do with like the extra time you had to work on it for it to then be made into film, or was it kind of like a process that had already happened by the time you found out about that?
I think it was, so we wrote a script and put it on a Google Doc so we could both work on it. And because we couldn't go through it all at once because we were still socially distanced, like we couldn't go in each other's houses or anything, we did it all over Zoom, and then we had to lose bits to try and get it down to the half an hour, and because we couldn't do a full run with all the balloons and everything, we just never knew how long it was going to be, so we lost basically the nice bits mostly and then kept the sort of interesting bits.
Because it looked a bit like you're in a theatre as well. Like, was that, how did you get that? Was it a room in your house, or was it a theatre, or how did that work?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest hurdle to overcome. We spent so much time trying to find somewhere that we could actually get to. So we're both in Plymouth at the moment, and we're trying to find like village halls or just like any kind of indoor space so we could actually go that was going to be big enough. So eventually we just used my living room, and like it was like against this wall here. I just stripped everything out that morning, like all the furniture, and we had this big black curtain that we used. So luckily it's quite a big room, so we managed to do it in that. But yeah, that was up until like the day before. We were just trying to find somewhere that we thought would be like suitable and would be like big enough, because we had like some equipment as well, because as you said, it's quite like a lot of, you know, like big speakers, and there was like a TV that we needed to use and stuff. So yeah, that was like probably I think the biggest hurdle, like technically, to overcome.
You had microphones as well, didn't you? Did you guys do the tech too? Like literally everything all on you both?
Yeah, we could only have the two of us. So you can see that I'm clicking something the whole way through, and that's me, because we had the screen in front of us, had like the lines and everything. And yeah, so we're just clicking through.
Yeah. Did you have to edit it and everything as well afterwards, or did you have anyone else helping you with that?
No, we did the edit as well, but we have made films and things in the past, so it's something that we're used to doing.
The least stressful part was probably once we had done it. It seemed like such a climb to get to actually in the room and start recording it. And even on the day, there was so many things we were trying to like sort out, like using like a projector or like getting the right TV and just like getting the lines to be clickable and stuff. So all that kind of like technical stuff was like such a kind of anxiety driven thing up until we had done it. And then once we had done it, that was kind of the easy part. We kind of knew, like, both do a lot of editing, so we knew we could like do a quick kind of turnaround on that. So once we had actually done it, that was kind of like a big sigh of relief of like, we've actually been able to get to the finish line, as it were.
Do you think like there's anything that you could take away into, like, if you were to do it again for film, anything that you'd take away with hindsight that would make it easier for next time? Or
I think we'd get somebody else to do the tech.
Yeah.
Like if we weren't in a pandemic again, yeah, definitely get somebody else in the room. That would be very helpful. And like a better room that we don't have to sort of construct.
Yeah, there was just so many like hurdles to get to the actual recording of it. And obviously, like being in a pandemic, there's so many specific things we had to abide by. But yeah, I think also like what really helped us was having like a really great kind kind of timeline of when we wanted to have stuff done, which is maybe not something I've done as well previously, but that because we had such a fast turnover, as it were, to produce and make all this show in like a month essentially, that really did help us kind of like keep on track. And we were, you know, as Beth said, we're doing everything over Zoom, so having that kind of like all in mind, yeah, it was really good, really useful.
Do you think there was anything, obviously other than the editing, for the actual production part of it, do you think there was anything that worked best for film that you're glad that you did do as a recorded version rather than a live?
I think the lights on the balloons looked quite good, and I don't think that would look good if we were doing it live, because just static lights would not be great. I think the because you've got a big red curtain in the living room as well.
Yeah.
I think it helped that having the lights on the balloon, because then everything was sort of like it looked interesting, but it all sort of came together with the same look.
Yeah. I think that the problem with like doing it in like a dark space that isn't like set up to have a dark space is obviously filming. There's like restrictions on the light and stuff and how well it's going to look and all this kind of thing. I think, if we could do it again, I think maybe having like, we were talking about this, having like multiple cameras and stuff, so you can kind of not have it all just, you've all got to fit it in like with that one frame. And there's kind of a lot of information in the show with like both performers, and then you want to have the balloons and everything. So it's a kind of it took a while to just set that kind of frame up and have everything in. A lot of like adjusting and stuff, quite boring stuff. But yeah, and it doesn't really give you that much freedom to move. And the performance we're kind of doing all this technical stuff, and then when it came to the actual performance of it, you kind of almost forget that you've got to do it because there's so much else going on. So once we actually started it, obviously filming it, you can have a couple of goes, and like the main thing we were doing was like the first 5 seconds over and over again, just like trying to get into the mindset of doing it, I think. So that was very different from actually having to do it in a performance, I think, with people.
Was there anything that you wanted to add that I've not really asked about for how you found it at all?
I'd say the process of writing was like very interesting, because obviously with our show, it's kind of you're having the start and the finish. This is kind of ruining it a bit if no one's seen it, but the having it like the two people and one's kind of going forward, so there's going backwards, and trying to edit that is like very tricky, and having like a 30-minute kind of time in mind without being able to kind of run it a lot. So we were like running it as best we could over Zoom, but until you perform it and have all these balloons and stuff, the timing is very off. So that was like really interesting to try and juggle that over the internet and not have any kind of actual contact at all. That was probably, I think the weirdest thing was actually doing it with each other and not looking at each other, you know, because obviously we're just in like rehearsals, as it were, just trying to go through it and, you know, get a feel for it. And then when you're actually trying to do it, it's like, oh, this is a completely different thing.
I think the Zoom rehearsals, like as weird as they were, I found them really helpful. I think it was a really good way of working that we hadn't really done before, and I think we'll probably continue doing it. I know that we're doing it with different things already, so it's really good to know that is like an option.
Yeah, I think so. So that was, did you actually do it together for the first time for the performance then, and everything else was all virtual?
Yeah, we met up outside a couple of times to just read through the lines, but obviously we couldn't have the balloons outside, so on the day was the first time we could do it all together.
So since you last time you performed with Plymouth Fringe, you did Basic Space, and now you're doing Heart and Lungs. In that time between, like, how do you feel like you've developed as a company, as artists, and how do you think that's helped with your journey back to Plymouth Fringe?
Well, I mean, I remember the first time we did Basic Space at Plymouth Fringe, that was with us and Dan as well. I remember it's like a very tech-heavy show in some way, because we had like MP3s that the audience need to play and things. I remember it going wrong on the very first show that we did, and just like having this like blind panic and anxiety about it because it has to all be in sync. So I think, yeah, from then till now, I think, yeah, just maybe like a bit more confidence in what we're doing, and not like having that kind of like nightmarish panic attack when something does go wrong. And also like we do a lot of things with, you know, like being like specific or like doing stuff for the audience that isn't necessarily just in a theatre space. So that this show, like, I think plays into that more so than if we just did it in front of an audience, like a normal kind of theatre setup. So that was kind of exciting about it as well. And yeah, I don't think we could have done this kind of show like in 2016, whenever we did Basic Space. I just don't think we'd have the confidence to be that kind of performance. Like, we don't do a lot of acting, as it were, I think, in that, like the discipline of acting, like lines and stuff, it's not really a strong suit. So we kind of find interesting ways around that and build work around other ways of, you know, performing. So yeah, I think just you can definitely see the change in like confidence and maybe ambition as well about what we can do, because like to do this show and make it in the 30 days is like, I think, to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, it's like quite ambitious. It's quite hard to do because there's so many moving parts. That's kind of how I feel about it, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think when we did Basic Space, it was a really positive experience at Plymouth Fringe, and knowing that we could do something. And I think it going so wrong on the first night that we did it was like very lucky, because I don't know, because we got so much better after that. And it was like the worst thing that could have happened for that performance already happened. So there's no, like, it couldn't get worse from that. It could only get better. And I think that was really helpful for us. And then, yeah, as you said, we're not great at lines. So coming into Heart and Lungs, I think we definitely had the confidence to work around that and find different ways of how we could do it and how we could project stuff that we could read. And yeah, but it was great. It was a good experience again with the Fringe and coming together with everyone, even online.
Okay, I guess that's it then.
So, why did you agree to this?
I know. I'm glad. We were good, you and me, for a bit. Bye then.